Okay, let's go to the next dimension. Multiple objects. I want to start with an example. So this is a retailer, takes in orders for items. Order 1 as items x, 2 times x, 1 times y. And I made this example fit a bit, so it's 2 orders coming from the same customer shortly after each other, right? So it's not changing the order, it's just placing a second order also for a second item, for third item x and another item y. So we have 2 customer orders. Well, this retailer doesn't have this on stock, so creates supplier orders and creates a supplier order for 3x and for just one item y, right? So already see that there's a problem. When the supplier order arrives, right? So it's received, the items are received, they're unpacked, and then we have 3 concrete items, x1, x2, x3, right? So they're, I distinguish them individually. In the warehouse, you may want to do this. Also having 2 invoices, one for order 1, one for order 2 that are created at some point in time. Then we realize, or the retailer realizes, okay, I made a mistake here. I actually need to order 2y, so I'm updating the supply order, which also arrives at some point in time. Also need to update the invoice. And only after I've received 1y, at least 1y and 2x, I can start shipping order 1, because only then I have x1, x2, and y1. So I'm putting all these items in there, and then I'm shipping them at say 3 o'clock. And then there's a rule in place that says if I have 2 open invoices from a customer, I will not send the second shipment before the invoice has been paid, right? So there's a payment block. I'm not gonna send out the invoice. So first, the customer has to clear both invoices, and then the second order is shipped. Okay, it's a process, right? There's no case identifier here. You already see that, right? So it's orders have invoice, supplier orders, items, payments. Don't even try to build a classical event. I'm going to talk a bit about what goes wrong when you try this, but there's not the typical case identifier like this traffic ticket, right? This traffic ticket, I drove too fast, that's my identifier, and I kind of can relate everything to it, but I can't do this here. And to make this a bit interesting as well, of course, we have people, we have maybe an automated warehouse to support us. But to make this interesting, right, the supplier, so the retailer promises to ship everything within 6 days of placing the order. And I'm going to show you an event data in a moment where this is violated. So here's the event data. What is this? I mean, sure, I have event records, right? You know this, right? It looks like an event log, an event identifier, timestamp, activity, lots of attributes. It's not a classical event log because, as I said, there's no case identifier here. So what do we call this at the moment in the community? It's an object-centric event log. Yeah, that's what it is. So we can also call it a raw event table without unique case ID, or object-centric event log, or event table with entity types. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, you have multiple entity types that are indicated in the attributes, and you have all these identifiers that say, okay, I have an order 1 and order 2, I have supplier orders from A and B, and so on and so forth. So now the question is, are all the KPIs met? And this I can check on this object-centric event log by just looking at order 1 is placed at 1st of May, and it's shipped on 8th of May, so that's 7 days. The other one is shipped on 9th of May, so it's 8 days. So they're violated. Not sure I can see that, but why? Why are they not met? That's the big question. So who does not know? That's a good question. Who does not know why extracting a single event, a classical event log from this is a bad idea? Right? Because I have event data, and I can try. There's ways to do this. Who does not know why this is a bad idea? There's a few. let me show you, right? So let me recap. You try to build a sequential event log. What you have to do in this situation, you have to pick a case identifier. You have to relate it to something. Well, in this case, it would be the order. Say, okay, order, because this is where the process starts. That's my case identifier. Then you add all the events that are correlated to this identifier. So let's say we start with order 1. So we're going to add these events, E1, E18, E27, E28, because they have the value 01 in the order attribute. Okay, that's easy. And now we dive deeper into the data and add more events that are related to order 01. And related would be, for example, here, X1, X2, Y1, because they're mentioned in this event E27. So they're related. So I know X1, X2, Y1, they're related to 01. So I'm going to add all events that refer to X1, X2, Y1 also to this case, right? So this would be then these events. I'm leaving out the ones that only talk about X3 and Y2 because they're not related to 01. And I can keep on doing this, right? So until I add all these events. And then I copy this to a new log where I generate a new synthetic case identifier 01, right? Because so they all didn't have 01, but I'm basically materializing, look, you're related to 01. So that's it in a gist. Now I have to do this for 02 as well, for the second order. So this is now the event log that I would extract. Who sees the problem with this log? With duplicated events. So we have, for example, E3 occurs twice, once for 01 and once for 02. I mean, I had to because it's kind of related, right? It's part of the dynamics. So if I'm duplicating events, I'm getting wrong statistics. Yeah. So I have, for example, placing supplier order is 4 times in the data, but it actually only occurred twice. So whenever I try to reason about how often certain activities occurred, or I don't know how much revenue I made in case these events also include amounts, I have to correct for this. I can do this, but I have to. There's another problem that is in here because of this duplication, and that's far worse, that I cannot correct. Who knows what that is, or who can see it? It's easy. What is it? It's too long ago. So the problem is here I see an event receive supplier order followed by an event update supplier order. So there's 2 events following each other that are actually not related because one is for supplier order A and one is for supplier order B. But I don't see that. I'm just looking at 02. So now if I extract this process model, this is going to tell me you first received your products and then you're updated the supplier order. And then the manager goes, what are we doing? And it's not that they did anything wrong. Your analysis approach was wrong. You're doing things in the wrong way. So this is called convergence, where you're connecting, you're creating dependencies between things which are actually unrelated because you're flattening the data from one perspective. So if you push this data into a process discovery algorithm, then you see this coming back, right? So you see, okay, we have this loop around placing supplier orders. We're doing this 4 times. We have the wrong order about updating and receiving supplier orders. Also false performance information. So this one says we have a waiting time to receive the supplier order of 2.2 days, but in reality it's 3 and 5 days. Nothing here makes sense. So that's why we're researching this artifact-centric, object-centric process mining for a very long time to fix this. So now let me show you how you avoid all this. That's why you're here.